PCS for all of us. So with that, Matthew, if there's anything you want to say, Matthew?
Welcome. Just want to welcome everybody who's here in person, everybody who's on Zoom with us tonight. As Tony just mentioned, we're very excited to have everyone with us. We have a group of teachers and staff who are going to come out first. Then we have a group of students, and then we have a group of parents who are going to come out. I think part of the local control accountability plan, the LCAP process, is all about gaining as much of our educational partners and their input into this process, and really taking I would say critical, but take a look at what we're doing, how we're spending our money, and what we could be doing better as a school district. So if we think about, if we really kind of try to ground ourselves in our district-wide goals, our first goal is that all student scholars will experience an excellent, diverse, equitable, and inclusive education. Our second goal is that all student scholars will have rich academic options that meet their unique needs. Our third goal is that all student scholars and families will be engaged in their learning community. And our fourth goal is that we will enhance the long-term sustainability of our organization, infrastructure, and operations. So tonight we're really going to be focusing on those first three goals. All students we want all students to have an excellent, diverse, equitable, and inclusive education, rich academic options that meet their unique needs, and that families are engaged in their learning community. As we look around the room tonight, for those of you who are here in person, we see some posters that are on the wall. One of the things that I keep talking about over and over, like a broken record, is that I really believe that it's critical that our students have a trusted adult on their campus. And so some of the questions that we've designed really have to do with our youth truth survey and our what we're calling a pulse survey. So kind of like taking your pulse as if you're taking your pulse, your heart pulse, and kind of seeing where we're at. So we've already done one pulse survey. We've done the youth truth in January. We're going to be doing 2 more pulse surveys by the end of the year, correct, Lindsay? And really getting some baseline information this year to see how students are feeling connected. We want to know that if their learning is applicable to their real life, and just how they're making those connections. And so we're going to ask the same set of questions to each of the 3 groups. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Babs Kavanaugh. Thank you for being here tonight, Babs. And I want to thank the planning committee, Esmeralda, Tony, Babs, and Lindsay. I'm forgetting someone, Dave. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for planning it and making this as concise as we could be. We could probably spend multiple days on this, but we've really tried to boil it down to some essential questions that play off of the question, the pulse survey, which is linked to youth truth. Some of those critical questions that we want to hear a little bit more from students. The idea is to take this information and then use it as we start planning. We're in a second year of a 3-year LCAP cycle, really starting to think about next year as we plan out for that next cycle. Where are we spending our dollars, and what else can we be doing to make sure that students have an excellent, diverse, equitable, and inclusive education, and have these options in their school career. We're going to hear things tonight that may not rise to the level of where we want to see it, but we need to know that information. Just as Jim Collins in the book Good to Great says, you need to know the critical hard facts and the truth, and then we need to build from there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Babs Kavanaugh. Thank you, Babs, for moderating for us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Matthew. And we're really looking forward to this tonight. We have not been in person with our LCAP meetings, and we really thought that this would be a great opportunity again to do in person and also to have 3 panels tonight. So it's going to be pretty fast paced. You all have listening guides, so we're hoping that you'll jot down some key thoughts that you hear from everybody so that we can use those as part of our engagement and evidence gathering process. So with that, I'm going to go gather our staff panel.
And while they're walking in, just so the audience knows, they have had a chance to look at the questions first. They may or may not all answer the same questions. Well, we may ask a sampling of people to answer the questions. So.
Oh, and I believe that Kevin may be on. Okay, great. So Kevin, you're with us as well? All right, thanks so much. So we're going to start out by having each one of our panel members introduce themselves. They're going to tell us a few things about where they work and how long they've been teaching. And then I will start the questions, and I will ask each one of the members, but I'm going to start with a different member each time. Okay, so Kirsten, why don't you begin?
Okay. Thank you. All right, good evening. I'm Kirsten Franklin. I'm a fourth grade teacher at McNair School. I teach half-time there. And then I also have another little PTA sponsored gig as environmental literacy coordinator. So I'm working with all of the classes TK6 every other week doing outdoor learning, science learning. I've been teaching over 30 years. I've been in the district over 30 years. I taught 14 years at Penn Grove, taught 8 years at Grant, spent 3 years in the district office as a TOSA for science and Common Core support. So I have a little glimpse into district life as well as being a teacher. And then moved to McNair, and I've been there for 7 years. Thanks.
Great, thanks very much, Kirsten. Kylie.
Hi, I'm Kylie Cicchini Haynes. I teach right now at San Antonio Continuation High School. I've been in the district for 33 years. I taught for 24 years at Petaluma High School. I taught English, and I'm teaching English now at San Antonio Continuation. And as another part of my sort of a side hustle, I teach for the Sonoma County Office of Education. I teach in their intern program, so through the Be a Teacher program.
Wonderful, thank you. Megan.
Hello, my name is Megan McClelland. I'm the lead school counselor at Petaluma High School. I'm also the co-activities director this year. I've been at Petaluma High School for 9 years, and this is my 10th year as a counselor.
Great, thank you, Megan. Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Rigetti Judah, and I taught initially, I was at Kenilworth for a little bit, and then I went to, and CASA, so first year teaching, that was both those locations. I also taught 7 years at Petaluma High, and currently I'm part-time at Petaluma Junior High.
Okay, great, thanks, Linda. Kevin.
Kevin Klemenach, 25 years in the district. Started at Kenilworth for 16 years and went over to Petaluma Junior High. And now I'm back over at Kenilworth, all doing instrumental music. I've also taught at PAX, doing instrumental music there. And my assignment is split this year between Kenilworth and then doing the music appreciation courses over at Costa Grande High School.
Great, thanks so much, Kevin. I wanted to also say that this is being simultaneously translated, just so that everybody knows that it's both English and Spanish. Okay, all right, so I'm going to launch into questions, and I think, Kirsten, I'm going to start with you. And the first question is, share with us why you believe families and students choose Petaluma schools.
Well, I think first and foremost, a lot of people come to Petaluma because it's such an amazing community. It's a beautiful place. I know that there are lots of families here who are generational, lived here a long time, but a lot of people who come in new as well, because it's such a fantastic community. And I think they're fortunate that all of the schools that are here, especially their neighborhood schools, are all really strong schools that offer great programs. So those are all good reasons to be here. I think Petaluma, especially over the last few years, has been doing a good job with its PR work, letting the community know what's going on and responding to different community needs. And I think there's a lot of choice that community members, families have.
Great, thank you. And Kylie, what would you say to that?
I would agree with Kirsten. I have 3 of my sons have gone through school here, and I have a daughter now who's in 5th grade at McNair. And so I've seen both as a teacher and as a parent. And I've always been impressed with how many of our educators have their own students in the district, and how many families have been here multiple generations. So it's a really special place in the Bay Area. I would venture that we have families that have been here multiple generations.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So Megan.
I would echo what everyone else is saying. I do think overall, this is my third district I've worked in, and I think we have a really strong supportive staff that really care. I mean, especially at Petaluma High, but I feel like I see that at all the different sites, and adults that really value not just the students in terms of their academics, but they notice right away if a student seems like they're struggling with something and, care about them on a deeper emotional and, mental health level. And then as a counselor, I get to see a lot of that. I think that the cohesiveness of being able to have a student go from kindergarten all the way to senior year and that transition from elementary to junior high to high school is really good. And then I also think, I'm speaking from a high school perspective, I think both the comprehensive high schools as well as our small continuation high school or alternative high schools have really good programs and a lot of unique things to offer students that I think you don't get everywhere else.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Linda.
I would echo what a lot of people have been saying as far as why people choose Petaluma City Schools. I also just had on my list that sometimes it's just because people live in Petaluma. So
Right.
sometimes our kid goes to the school that is where we live, and it's not so much that the parents said, oh, that's a school I'm going to send them to. So I just wanted to bring that to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. That perspective is useful. Thank you. Kevin, what might you add here?
Pretty much everything that people have said so far, I agree with. I also like the fact that Petaluma City Schools seems to want to really kind of push the envelope, is making sure that we're keeping up on technology, and that our students have all the available resources that they need in that area to succeed.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to start now, Kylie, with you. And this is one of those questions like, do you have what you need, right? So the question is, do you have the tools and support that you need to do your job? If yes or no, please explain.
I would say the basic tools, absolutely. I'm going to take this in a little bit different vein, I think, because as I'm thinking about our site, particularly at San Antonio, the one thing I think that we could use, and I want to just sort of throw this out there for the board to think about and for the LCAP committee to think about a little bit, is how we can enrich our elective offerings for our students. Our students have often, they are with us because they haven't been successful academically. That doesn't mean they're not engaged in school. And I want to see them have different opportunities, the opportunity to learn to weld, the opportunity to do auto shop, things like that, that they just don't have the opportunity to do. So if I had a tool or support that I would love to have at my school, it would be the opportunity to be able to get our students over to the really robust programs, elective programs at CASA and Petaluma High School.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Megan, what would you add there?
So, I think, yes, from like a small perspective within my own counseling department, we are very cohesive and work really well as a team and communicate well within our own school. I think that sometimes there's a disconnect between what's going on at like a district level from a site perspective, and I don't always feel like, and we've also had a lot of changes over the years, both district level and like this year at our site, we have 3 brand new administrators. And so I don't always feel like there's a good sense of like, what are the goals and how are those being driven from both the district perspective as well as from a site level. I think that, like from my perspective, working in counseling, things that I think could help would be, we have, like, I've brought this up in other ways, but we have a part-time college and career person and she works 25 hours a week, which is great, but she can only do so much with that limited time. And it's currently like a classified position, which means it's not, a very lucrative paying job. So it's often hard times to get those people in those positions. Within like the counseling department, we have caseloads of 300 students per counselor. So we do as much as we can to help support students with all their college and career goals, but there's always mental health things arising. So it's a hard balance to strike. So I don't know, I would love to see more support from Honestly, from the site level, I think I love all of our new admin, but they are all brand new. And I know there's a lot of new admin throughout the district. So I think having more support for our admin would be great, but then having more like open communication, I don't know what exactly that would look like, so that we can all work better together as a team with what's going on at the district to site level.
Okay, good. Thank you. And Linda?
So I wrote that some of the tools are in need of updating a little bit, and I was thinking very concrete and specific. So like just today, my students were doing my lab with microscopes, and it's 7th grade. So if the microscopes aren't top notch, that's actually probably a good thing. However, I did have to try out quite a few of them to find 8 that were working well enough for 7th graders. So there's probably other tools that are like that fall into that category as well. But then as far as support, I said support varies. So my current admin has been super supportive and responsive. However, everyone is stretched so thin that many things fall through the cracks. So for example, I'm teaching 7th grade science this year. And so one of the joys of 7th grade science is we get to do the teen talk, which is the sex education unit. And I just asked about the curriculum, if there was curriculum for it, and learned just this week that indeed there is. And in fact, to teach it, you need to go through a certain training in order to teach the curriculum. And so if I hadn't asked, I don't know when it would have come to light that I needed that training to teach the curriculum. And so stuff like that happens. And so sometimes I think, again, like I said, I think everybody, admin, district people, teachers, everybody's just stretched so thin that sometimes that's kind of stuff doesn't happen on time. And so when I think about support, it would have been very frustrating to get to May when we have it scheduled to do that maybe half of the people that are supposed to be teaching a certain curriculum don't actually have the curriculum and that kind of thing. So, so that's my 2 cents.
Okay, all right. Thank you. These stories, I think, are really helpful just for the details of that. So I appreciate that. Kevin?
So I have pretty much, looking over the question, I would agree. I mean, I have pretty much everything I need at Kenilworth. I've actually had everything that I need supply wise and support wise at any of the sites that I've worked at. As far as resources and everything, I would have to add, though, that without booster organizations that you start at either the junior high locations or the high school, it'd be really hard to do the job that we do. And I'm speaking from a music standpoint, performing arts. Without booster organizations to help raise funds, a lot of the supplies and things that we need, instruments and everything else that goes along with it, we simply wouldn't be able to afford, because though we do get, and I do appreciate the money we do get from the district, it really doesn't begin to really kind of cover all the different costs that there are to run a successful performing arts department. And so I rely a lot on my booster organizations in order to make sure that I get the supplies that we need so that the kids, I mean, as an example, the instruments, I mean, I've got no child has ever turned away as far as for wanting to play an instrument. If they can't afford one, it doesn't matter, because we've got a whole inventory of them in stock, and we've got an inventory in stock because we've had the money to purchase those instruments over the years. But again, that stuff just doesn't happen without a good booster organization. From my administration at any of the sites, PACs, any of the junior highs or high school, I always seem to get good support as far as if I need a certain item or something. So no, nothing really to add there.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. And Kirsten, how about you?
Yeah, I would say, yes, and no. I have all the tools I need, and in some ways I don't. I think in the yes part of it is that we have a lot of curriculum. We have a lot of curriculum, and I have supplies and all of my facilities. My classroom is nice. My school where I teach is beautiful. And my colleagues and my site principal are all very high level functioning people. So that's all a joy, that piece of it. I think the parts that are challenging have to do mainly with the work level, the workload, and the amount of time that I have, I'll just say I could say we, but I'll just say that I have to get the job done. So it's in elementary school, you have a span of skills and abilities and emotional needs that come into your classroom. That's challenging. The expectations in terms of getting through curriculum, and I don't even like to phrase it that way, but you've got these curricular packages that are huge. It's very difficult to navigate through that and decide what to do and then be able to go through a whole program. And that comes down to time. So the amount of time to explore curriculum, figure it out, collaborate with colleagues to decide how we want to go about things in kind of a uniform way is super, super, super limited. And then the other piece of that I find really challenging is the lack of time impacts my ability to look at what kids are doing. So the evaluation piece of it, I really struggle with, because if you have that time to evaluate what kids are doing, then you know how they're doing and you know what to do to plan for further instruction. So that piece of it, the time piece, is a tool that I don't have enough of.
All right, so we heard some good news and then we also heard real challenges around time and stretch and resources. So thank you for all of that information. Here's a question that we're asking that's really about the, considering equity. It's a really important issue at this time. And so when an issue of bias or racism arises in class or on campus, how well equipped do you feel? What are the tools you use to address this? Are there any barriers to addressing it? And I think it's great we're starting with a counselor. So Megan, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, this is like a multiple part question. I feel like, yes, I mean, I'm in a different role, of course, being in a one-on-one environment. I think students hopefully feel safe to come and talk to me. And I have had students come in and talk to me about these types of things. I feel like personally as a school counselor, I'm well equipped to be able to like help them within, processing what's going on. I think barriers, of course, unfortunately, we do live in a society and a world where people do have biases, and unfortunately we do still have racism that exists, right? Like I see it at Petaluma High, sadly. So I think that it makes me sad that when students don't feel safe on campus because of, whether it's the color of their skin or their gender identity or whatever, I think that I try my best to work with her admin team, or if it's happening in a specific classroom, talking to those teachers to figure out what can be done. I think that ways to maybe improve would be bringing in like implicit bias training, both for the staff as well as like having structure that exists within the classrooms for our own students to recognize it. I also do think that, sadly, like as much as we try to be diverse, and I see this as a counselor and even now in my role in activities and trying to make sure that, the makeups of our classes and our programs are representative of like the entire student population, you do definitely see that there are I just finished up 4 weeks of being in classrooms for registration. And so I can walk in an honors class and see a particular type of student, whereas I was in our SDC classroom the other day and the makeup of that classroom is very different. And so it does make me sad. And I definitely think that we as a school site, as a district, as a society, I mean, I know it's not just like our issue, it's a global thing. I think there's more things that could be done to improve. I think I was brainstorming all these questions with my counseling department today. And one thing we were talking about is, having a focus group, a committee of students that meets maybe on a monthly basis with like a principal or an admin, maybe with a counselor there. I'm not sure what that team would look like, but in a safe space where they feel like they can express the things that they're seeing and also feel empowered to speak up and try to figure out what are the themes, because I know we just at our site just had a WASC group panel the other week. And so, one student sees one perspective of like, oh, everything's great at this school and we're really happy here. And then the next student's like, I don't feel safe at all, or I don't feel like my voice is heard. So trying to find more ways to make it so that like every single student on campus does feel like their voice is heard, and that every adult feels comfortable listening to those and then figuring out how to like problem solve.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, that was a long
Yeah.
answer.
No, it was a really good answer. So thank you. Linda.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo a lot of what Megan was just saying. And those are probably very astute observations. I put that also that I personally feel equipped, but that's primarily because I have taken it upon myself to be educated on these kinds of topics. And I have also received training in diversity, equity, inclusion stuff in other venues, not at Petaluma City Schools, but in other venues. But this year is interesting for me because, as I said, I taught at Petaluma High for 7 years, but then I took a little hiatus and a little break. And so I'm now a new employee this year coming back. And as a new employee, I have not seen or experienced or received training on this kind of stuff. And I feel like it would be useful and helpful. There was a brief presentation during one of our staff, I was like staff meeting at Petaluma Junior High, but that was it, so it was like a one-off, in our staff meeting. And certainly I feel like this deserves a lot more attention and support. So all the things Megan said would be great.
Okay, thank you. Kevin. Kevin, we're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to agree with everything that was said so far. The only thing I'd like to add is with the fact of maybe having like some type of student panel to address some of those issues, because I do believe that they are present. And what would really be nice though is to have a panel of students where you could actually ask them to be involved in the discussion rather than having a teacher or an admin leading the discussion. Get the students more involved in it, and then depending if they need help with organizing where they want the discussion to go, then the teacher or the administrator can always step on in a little bit later on. But just get the students as much involved as possible in issues that are going on like that around campus.
Okay, good. Thank you. Really good suggestion. Kirsten.
I think it's an interesting topic, and I have sort of ambivalent feelings because I don't know what I don't know. I think there've been some good trainings that have happened, and certainly my awareness level of equity and inclusion and diversity is more heightened. At the elementary level, I think where we can and do a good job is just trying to create, classroom cultures of caring, starting with our class meetings, our morning meetings, and our SEL programs. I think it starts there. And I also think that it starts with teaching kids how to communicate productively and positively. That goes back to Common Core with protocols that you use for academic discourse and whatnot. So, having a culture on site that promotes those kinds of things in the first place in the elementary, I think is really important. One thought that I had, or maybe suggestion, was wondering if there weren't other personnel in a district who could come and help with that kind of content. Maybe it's the site counselors, the site counselors who come in. In the past, in years past, I've had counselors come in and teach listening skills and perhaps, racial equality and things like that are also things that they could address at the elementary level. I know that would be a big help to teachers.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Kylie.
I appreciate this question. And as I'm sitting here thinking and listening to what everybody's saying, and I'm looking at the 4 white women and 1 white man that are on this panel. And I think this is sort of what I want to suggest with kind of 3C about what are some actions or strategies, practices that we might look at is to grow our own. We have a lot of really amazing students of color in this district, and I would love to see a teaching pathway for these students to bring them into this career that I love. And I would love to have my students see people who look like them, who've had the same kind of life experiences that they have, because as much as I want to be open and trained up and all of that, I don't know what I don't know, and I can't experience what they've experienced because I've lived my life as a white woman in this society.
Okay, thank you. So rich, my goodness. So this question, we're going to work from data, and I'm going to ask Lindsay to help on this. So in the Youth Truth Survey, one of the questions is, my school respects people of different learning abilities. So I'm going to ask Lindsay to give us an update again. I know we've looked at this data before, but to look at that one piece. And then I'm going to start in with you, Linda, to ask the question, what are some ways we can all improve in this area? So Lindsay, first I'm going to turn to you.
Sure. As Dave is pulling up the data, I just want to note that what we're looking at is in percentiles. So these are the responses of Petaluma City Schools compared to other schools across the country who took the Youth Truth Survey. So when we're asking both families and staff, does your school respect people of different learning disabilities? For elementary, family and staff, we're in the 60s percentiles. So, you know, elementary outcomes are performing, you know, for family, our family responses were better than 68% of all schools, elementary schools across the country. When we get to high school and middle school, it looks a little different. So families are in the 38th percentile on that, and staff at the middle school was in the 24th percentile. For high school, families were in the 19th percentile and staff was in the 35th percentile. So this is some of the reasons why we're looking at this question and paying attention to this question, just because compared to the rest of the country, I think it's a place that we can make some strides towards improvement.
Great. Thank you. So Linda, I'm going to ask you, what are some ways we can all improve in this area?
So for this question, I thought about this one, and you know, I was also looking at another question that was on the list, and we haven't gotten to it yet, but was looking at addressing some of the barriers to learning. So they're kind of related. And while I'm no expert in diversity, equity, inclusion, and all of that, I do believe that there's some things that we can do to help improve this. One thing that I put on my list was bilingual training for all staff. So specifically in Spanish, because that seems to be the predominant language of the students and families who speak a language other than English as their primary language. So it just seems that all of us should be Spanish proficient so that we can communicate with our students and our families. It would make that, if I was that parent, I would feel a lot more connected if that was the case. Same if I was that student. Another thing I put was eliminating homework. I know that one's a hot button topic for some. Evidence suggests that homework itself disproportionately and negatively impacts students in low socioeconomic groups. Then there's not a whole lot of evidence that actually shows that homework improves learning. So if we know that it's hard on the folks with the least resources and we don't know that it actually helps learning, why are we doing it, is my question. So that would be one of my suggestions from that one. More bilingual aids. So we have, I think, 1.5 at the junior high who do their darn best and they're lovely, but man, we could sure use some more. That would be nice. And more counselors. I was just listening to a show, I think it was on NPR somewhere, and they were talking about the professional counselors organization, whatever it's called, yeah. They recommend that should be a 1 to 250 ratio. And I know that's nothing like what the ratio we've got here. So more counselors would be great. And that would certainly go a long way to helping address some of these issues. So that's what I got.
All right, thank you. Kevin?
To add to that, I would just say, try to offer more activities that have more open-ended possibilities, not just one correct answer, maybe different types of tasks or projects as a way of completing the material instead of it just being one definitive correct answer. And that's that.
Thank you. Kirsten?
Yeah, I go back again to the classroom culture and the elementary, the use of social emotional learning programs. I think that goes a long ways towards including everybody across all the wide range of skills and personalities that come into any given classroom. I think that's the foundation for sure. Teachers trained in differentiation, lots of menus and choices for students, different ways for them to access the content. All of that is super important. One particular group that I think of, particularly at McNear, has to do with our special day class and how there's just a shout out to Lisa Perelius, who's just an amazing advocate for her students. And, just making sure that they get assimilated into the classrooms at some point during the day. They're getting their minutes. In my class, they come in the afternoon, but they also join us for PE and field trips and things like that. And, observing them on the playground, observing them, those students in the classroom, I can see that they've made friendships and connections. So she's a really good example of embracing all the different learning styles and abilities.
All right, thank you. Kylie?
When I looked at the data there, what struck me is how it drops off precipitously in high school, right? And I think that potentially one of the things we might look at is this idea that maybe not all students need A through G. That I've been in this district long enough when I saw that wasn't the case. And not to say that students shouldn't have the option to do that, but that's the only track that they have available for them. And not to get too, it's kind of ludicrous, really. And what we're asking our students to do, demanding that all students do with math, and just some of the things that we're requiring them to do. And we know that for not all students, does that make sense? And we have this wonderful junior college. I went to it, and we have students who it makes a lot of sense for them to go to the junior college. They are not on a UC track. So why we're doing the A through G, or maybe that's even A through P at this point, I don't know, it's a lot. Putting them through that when in fact, when they go to the junior college, nothing that they do in high school matters anymore anyway. They have to take biology again. They have to do all these things. So I think that one of the things that we can do to kind of address these families that feel like their students' needs really aren't being met, because 19 percentile, that's pretty bleak, that we look at that and say, who really are our students? Where do they really go after high school? And why is the fact that we have maybe 10% of our students, 15% of our students going straight into a four-year school, and the cost of that, why is that driving the whole show when we have such a wonderful junior college system for our students to go into?
Thank you, Kylie. Megan?
I would agree with a lot of what everyone said. I think there's a lot of really good ideas and perspectives. I think that I definitely see a real disparity with our students with the haves and the have-nots. Like, if it's for the students whose families can afford it, if they're struggling in classes, they pay for outside tutoring. For the students that do want to go right into four-year colleges, they pay for all these private college counselors to help support them and read their essays and take them through the process. For those students that are taking all the AP classes, to pay for all their AP testing. And then for the students, that don't have those financial that financial security. They don't have those things. And then there's not a ton of resources. I mean, obviously from a college perspective, yes, they have our college and career center and us, but the amount of time that we're able to spend with those students one-on-one versus what they pay for outside. And especially with like the tutoring, I also think that there's I see it a lot too with both our ELD population and our special ed population. I think just with the classes that they have to take, special ed students have to take study skills every year. So for their freshman and sophomore year, they really don't get elective options. And then they're put in all their general ed, math, science, English, et cetera classes, but they don't get a chance to take any of maybe like the fun electives that their peers are doing. And I think those are often the students that we see then later not being successful. And then later I'm transferring them to San Antonio. I think that's true of our ELD students as well, who also, they have to take their double English classes, which doesn't allow them those opportunities. So I do think there's a lot that we could do. I mean, and I know right now there's talks going on with changing bell schedules and looking at like more periods, which I think could help some of those students that, don't have that. And I think, going back, like it is really sad to see how much it drops off from elementary to middle to high school, especially working in high school. So I guess I would want to like Kylie suggested, do a more deep dive of why do those students feel that way and what can we as staff, as district members, et cetera, be doing to provide better supports.
Great. Linda.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing. This is all really awesome. One thing I noticed on my list, and I don't remember if I mentioned it, but smaller class sizes for everybody would be amazing.
Thank you. So we are a little tight on time for our last one. So I'm just going to swing around. Kevin, start with you. And just one thing that you want to make sure that we heard and that you want to bring back to the school board. So I'm going to limit you to one and swing you around quickly. So Kevin, one thing.
All right. Don't forget about the arts, and what by that I mean visual, performing, or industrial. And I love I don't know who was it said earlier just now, not everybody's going to go to a 4-year UC right out of high school. And I really think that we need to kind of retake the stock on the way that we approach some things, and don't forget about some of the other careers, because there's plenty of them out there, and just don't forget about anything having to do with the arts.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Kirsten.
I think that it's really important to look at equity across the campuses in the district in terms of what kinds of programs are being provided to all of the elementary students and the ways that they're being provided to elementary students. I think across all of the campuses, there's a need for teachers to have that time that I was talking about. And, we call it prep time, but bringing in specialists, the old days where we had PE teachers and art teachers, that would be super helpful to give teachers time to collaborate and talk to each other. Right now, I have to tell you, the working conditions right now, we have just very dedicated teachers who want to absolutely do their best. But I come across my colleagues and myself as well too. There's a pervasive sense of overwhelm because we can't get it all done. And we really do need more boots on the ground to be able to do that. It takes more people to do the job. And we have a lot of training. I have a lot of training. I have a lot of skills. I know a lot about what to do, but I have this constant feeling of I can't do it. I can't get there. And I know a lot of my colleagues feel that way too. So whatever we can do, to support more elementary teachers in the classroom, more boots on the ground, to have those smaller groups that they can work with because somebody else is coming in and taking that other group. Anything like that, I think is going to support teachers to do what they can truly do. We do amazing things, but it's on a lot of overwhelm.
Okay, Kylie.
I think I would just say that we have a really great district here with a lot of really creative educators. And I would just like to see us think a little bit outside the box and to look at how we can address some of these problems. I love the idea of student voices. bringing them in and also thinking about how to deliver to our students who don't feel like they are included at the table.
Megan?
I would say more mental health and or counseling support. We every year put in so many referrals for students that need more support, and we always have a wait list by October. And so just the number of students pre-pandemic and post-pandemic that have really serious issues that they need more support for.
Okay, thank you. And Linda, final word?
Yeah, I'd like to uplift what Kylie mentioned earlier about making sure that our staff all the way through, teachers, admin, janitors, everybody is reflective of our population as a whole would be awesome. That was a great suggestion and I love that. But again, the two takeaways that I came back to, I've heard before as over here as well, more counselors and smaller classes, which gets to Kirsten's idea of we need more just people, like, because if we have those smaller classes, we're better able to connect with those students individually and one-on-one and get to know who they actually are. And if we can do that, then we're better able to support them.
Wow. So I just really want to thank you, all of you, Kevin included. We missed you here, for just really thinking about the questions and giving us really thoughtful responses and a lot to chew on. So thanks very much. Applause for our team here. Thank you so much. And we're going to invite our students in. Okay, great. Mr. Conroe. Welcome to our students. Thank you so much for being here. So we're going to swing around and ask each of you to introduce yourselves and to talk about grade level, school site, and gender pronouns. And then we'll start our questions and I will begin. I'll rotate around who I start the questions with. So thanks very much again for joining us. And would you like to start?
My name is Matea Nozeki. I'm in 7th grade. I go to Petaluma Junior High School and my pronouns are she and her.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stella Napoli. I'm in 8th grade. I go to Petaluma Junior High School and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, my name is Eden Martin Reed. I go to Kenilworth Junior High School. I'm in 8th grade and my pronouns are they, them.
Hi, my name is Edward and my grade is 7th grade. I go to Kenilworth and I go by she and her.
Hi, my name is Madison Norwood. I go to Petaluma High School. I'm in 11th grade and my pronouns are she, her.
Hello, I'm Jane Gregorio and I'm a junior at Petaluma High School and I go by he, him pronouns.
Hi, I'm Leo Pickett. I am in 11th grade at Casa Grande High School and my pronouns are they, them.
Thanks very much. Okay, so we're going to start with our questions. And I believe that Esmeralda, you'll be helping us with for the parent panel. Thank you. So say, where was that? All right, so I know you have the questions as well, and I'm going to start, Matea, with you. What's happening at school that draws you here every day? And if you could add one more thing that to motivate you to come to school more, what might that be?
Well, what draws me to school is that teachers, they help me prepare like for what I want to do when I graduate college. When I graduate high school. So if I want to go to college, then they just help you, they prepare you also for high school. like your friends are there, so that motivates you a little bit. And then what might motivate me more to come to school is different electives. Like you have a couple electives, but sometimes you just need like fun to motivate you, I guess.
Okay, good. Thank you. Stella, how about you?
I would definitely say that being prepared for my classes is what main reason that draws me to school, because I want to be well educated in school, and seeing my friends every day and being able to hang out with them. And I'd say something we need more of is more variety in classes, because we're at a limited variety at our school right now. And I'd say more would be helpful.
Okay, thanks so much, Stella. And so Eden.
Something that draws me to school is just the drive to be educated and to be able, like as a queer person, there are a lot of stereotypes that like not a lot of queer people are able to make it through high school or through junior high or even elementary school due to bullying, and the drive to kind of not allow myself to become a statistic and just be educated is something that draws me to school. And I think something that would motivate me to come even more is to have maybe more of a community on campus, more safe spaces for students to go to. If there is like bullying at my school specifically, I've noticed there are like lots of clique issues where like certain people are like really, really rude. And something that I think is interesting about that too is that if you ask a kid, who are the people to stay away from, they can name exactly the people who, but if you ask a teacher, who do you think is causing students to feel unsafe? Most of them would not be able to tell you. So I think that is something that we could look at when doing that kind of stuff.
All right, thank you. Evelyn.
Something that draws me to school is like friends, but I don't have like anything to add.
Okay, all right, thank you. So Madison.
I think that the importance of education and getting a high school degree obviously drives me to school, but like on a day-to-day basis to keep me like motivated and interested, I think that like my favorite teachers and my friends and just like classes that interest me and are like different from just the like ordinary like English history stuff drive me more to like makes me more interested in everyday class. And if I could change something, I think I would also try to find something that was like more of a sense of community. Like I think outside of school, especially at like even at school events like sporting games, people really like come together, but during the school hours, there's not really much like coming together as a community. It's really just like friend groups and then like going to your classes and going home.
Okay, good. Thank you. Jaden?
I agree with what everyone else said. I think that seeing my friends, my own academic drive, and I'm very fortunate to have very personal relationships with some of my teachers. So that really motivates me to go to school every day. But I think something that would motivate me more is being able, to have more of my teachers have personal connections with me. I think that I really thrive in classes that I have personal connections with the teacher with. So I think that is something that can be worked on.
Okay, good. Thank you. And Leo?
I agree with a lot of the things people are saying about wanting to be there to be with your friends, because I can definitely agree with that. School is kind of the only place for me to be able to engage with the people that I like and the people that I want to be around. Another reason that I personally like going to school is because I get to engage in something that helps me kind of prepare more for what I want to do in college. And I've recently realized through some of the classes that I've taken that what I wanted to do for college, I now want to do something else. And it's been really great for me to be able to have those different classes and be able to, in those classes, say, I do enjoy this, but I would rather do something else.
Good. Thank you. So our second question, we're going to start with you, Stella. And we want to hear from you about how the things that you learn in class help you both outside of school and toward your future goals. And tell us how they do or what more we could do to support that.
All right. The class that I believe helps me the most in school is definitely leadership. I am getting the opportunity to talk in front of more people than I would want to generally. And I've been to many different occasions where I've talked in front of schools, teachers, principals. And I think that's definitely helped me work up my courage to talk more and be more social. And yeah, that's.
Okay, thank you. Eden, how about you?
So adding on to what she said, a class that I feel is really helped prepare me for going into high school and even after that is English class, because it's an opportunity to not only like, yes, there are prompts, but it's very open-ended. And so you're able to express opinions that sometimes a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable articulating publicly. So being able to write essays and things like that, especially about real world topics, are something that's been very useful to me. And something that I think would be more helpful, I want to touch on the HI unit, because that's our human interactions unit. That's the sex ed is also included in that. And I've heard from a lot of queer and trans students that when they're learning in HI, the sex ed is very targeted towards cisgendered and hetero students. And that leaves queer people very uneducated in that aspect of life outside of school. So I think that would be very helpful.
Good. Okay, thank you. So Evelyn.
A class that has helped me a lot is yearbook, because I get to communicate with people I wouldn't communicate with. And I don't have anything to add to like the other question.
Okay, thank you. Madison.
I found that one of the most important parts of what I've been learning in school recently has been in my history class. We tend to just do like 15 minutes a day about like current events that are happening in the world. I think it's really important because it is like growing us to be more worldly and knowledgeable about what is happening, because we don't always talk about everything that's happening in the world in other countries. And a lot of times we just stick to the subject that we're learning in school. And it also opens the forum to have conversations with people who have different beliefs than you and like political beliefs. And I think that that's important, like growing up as an adult, to be able to have like open conversations about what is going on in the world. And I can vote in the next like presidential election. And a lot of people in my grade will also be able to vote because I'm a junior. So I think it's important to start teaching kids what is happening in the world and to use their voice.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jaden.
I think PHS is really lucky to have a lot of electives. And I think that a lot of the electives at PHS have really helped me pursue a lot of my passions. I aspire to be a creative director, hopefully. And I feel like the entrepreneurship, journalism, and graphic design classes have really helped me further those passions. But also, I just want to say I really agree with what Eden said about the sex ed, because I think that that's something I really overlooked. But I remember wishing that when I took that unit that there had been some more information about queer sex ed.
Okay, good. Thank you. And Leo, how about you?
I also want to heavily agree with what Eden said and Jaden. I basically had to educate myself entirely. Being a queer person, had to completely educate myself on sex education and the differences between the sex education of a cisgendered heterosexual person versus anything that is not that.
Right.
And it was very difficult for me growing up because I kind of don't have a good parental figure that could have showed me or told me or educated me in that sense. So I was really on my own, relying on the school to help me with that. And it was not very helpful in that aspect. Another thing that I don't feel very prepared for is being an adult and turning 18, which I will do in about a year. My birthday was like a week ago. But other than the 1 or 2 classes I think we had freshman year, the required classes HI and Success 101, I have not learned anything about what to do after I graduate high school. I don't know how to apply for college. I don't know how to apply for a job. I don't know how to do taxes. I don't know how to open a bank account. I don't know how to write a resume. I feel very unprepared, and it scares me sometimes not knowing how to live by myself after I graduate high school and go to college. But I mean, I have my mom who can help me with that, but I still feel very unprepared in that aspect of school. I feel like hasn't done a very good job in preparing me for that.
Really good. Thanks to hear. So thank you. Our next question is, are there times when your teachers make an effort to understand what your life is like outside of school? And tell us how they do this and what more could they do? And we're going to start with you, Eden.
So like Jaden, I'm very lucky to have a personal relationship with quite a few of my teachers. And while there are quite a few teachers who are interested in learning what your life is like outside of school, there are still quite a few who aren't. And so I think that something that would make it so that they were more interested, or that they would act more interested, is that like, if more students were given an opportunity to do things like this, where they're able to share their story and communicate with their teacher, whether it's in front of a class or one-on-one, about things that would help them learn, and rather what and not what the teacher thinks that would help them. Because while a teacher is very educated in how to educate, a student is probably more in tune with what they need than a teacher would be.
Okay, thank you. Evelyn.
I basically don't talk about my life with teachers, but like I can feel like they do want to learn more about me, and they would try to understand me more.
Okay, thank you. Madison?
I have found that I've become close with some of my teachers, but even ones that I haven't, I think that they are like very understanding when something happens. Even in like the beginning of the school year, it's always like syllabus week, and they give you syllabuses and says that you like can't turn in any late work or do anything like that. But then when the situation actually comes up, and when you like communicate in like a responsible way and like talk to your teachers like openly, I found that like none of them have ever told me that I can't turn in something late, or none of them have ever not given me credit after missing a day. And I've also, something else is, some of my teachers do like mental wellness passes. So it's like no questions asked. If you need to turn in an assignment late, you just do. And I think that that's really beneficial. And I know a lot of people who use them.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Jaden?
Yeah, again, I'm very fortunate to have a lot of adults on campus that I feel comfortable talking to. I think that teachers get to that stage when they go beyond what they're required to do. I feel like oftentimes teachers kind of just lecture, and then it's classwork, and then it's homework, and it's like, it feels a little bit like inhumane in a way. Like, I feel like I really like it when teachers take the time off to just talk with the students. I feel like a really effective way that some of my teachers do this is by taking attendance, by asking questions that help to get them know more about their students. I feel like it's really effective in making the classroom seem like a more welcoming environment, and makes you feel closer to the teacher.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Leo?
I would say that I'm very close with a lot of my teachers just because of the circumstances that I personally am in, and I try to get close with them from the start, just because I kind of need to. Like, I have a 504 plan, and I reach out to all of my teachers before the school year starts to tell them that, and to inform them of my pronouns, because as a transgender student, I look very feminine, and it's easy to confuse me for someone that is female presenting. But I don't feel that any of my teachers have ever reached out to me in that regard. A lot of my teachers, like I would say maybe one of my teachers at the beginning of the year asked students if they had preferred pronouns or a preferred name. None of my teachers have ever reached out to me about the information included with my 504 plan, which would be very helpful for them to do instead of me having to explain everything to them. I do have teachers that I am very close with, but I don't feel like I could go to them if I had something going on in my life, because while I do feel very close with them, there's still a sense of, I want to say judgment, but that seems a bit harsh, of personal things going on in my life that I feel like I shouldn't talk with them because they're my teacher and they might think differently of me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Matea.
I think there are like a few teachers that try and connect with you, whether like it's personal. And they do make an effort, like if something's happening during class, and some teachers will take the time out of class and say like, hey, do you need to talk? So they do it, and it's helpful because sometimes you don't have someone to talk to, or if you do, like you can't talk to them about it. So teachers, when they do try to make that connection, it is nice.
Thank you. And Stella.
Yeah, like Matea was saying, there are some teachers that are aware and trying to help you. Like I am close to most of my teachers, but some of them I wish would try to reach out a little bit more. But I feel like they focus more on what they're teaching and try and do that. And what I think would help that is if they like at the end of class would like ask if students want to share like what they're doing over the weekend, any fun activities going on, stuff like that.
All right, thank you. Good responses for us. It's really helpful. So our next question is, we're going to start with you, Evelyn. And this question is, how easy do you find interacting with students at your school who are from a different cultural background than your own? So how easy is that for you? And then tell us more.
At the beginning of the year, it was very hard for me because I didn't know many people and it was so new for me. So my elective is yearbook, so I had to like go up to people and like talk to them and asking if I can take their picture. And I got to interact with them more.
Good. So it sounds like that class really helped then.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right. So Madison?
I think that on like somewhat a superficial level, it's not very hard to interact with students of a different cultural background, because if I'm interacting with them, we at least share a school, or more likely we're in a class together, and that allows us to have conversations about the teacher or the test or the assignments. So there's always like a gateway into having a conversation. But on like a deeper level, I haven't found that like conversations about our cultural backgrounds have been like prompted very easily.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And Jaden, how about you?
As one of the only POC on this panel, I feel like I have a lot to say about this. Growing up in a predominantly white environment, I feel like it's been my job my whole life to assimilate into this environment. And I think that when I was younger, I found it really hard, or I found myself pushing away my culture and thought that it was really wrong and disgusting. And it's still something I'm trying to unlearn, but I still find myself continuing to push it away on several occasions. And I'm a Filipino American. One example of something that I do to like make it easier for white people to understand my culture is we have this Filipino dish that I bring in on finals day called lumpia. It's a really popular dish, but I just say that they're called egg rolls because that's what everyone knows about Asian culture. And I think that in class, I feel like oftentimes teachers emit what some might call a white savior complex, which is when a white person attempts to help or rescue a person of color. And I think that sometimes teachers will get overly interested in my cultural experiences in front of the whole class. But at that same time, it's almost like they're singling me out on my experiences. I've heard slurs. I think, or I've heard my teacher said Asian slurs. I don't think she was aware of what they meant or realized that they were slurs, but I think that there needs to be more education, definitely on cultural backgrounds. And I think it's also just very apparent that racism isn't non-existent at my school. I feel as though a lot of the other POC students at my school have deeply rooted internalized racism, and I am sometimes a victim of that, but one instance is when another fellow Asian student like went up to me and was like, "We're both yellow," in front of the whole class. And I thought that made me really uncomfortable. And I feel like, well, I own a club, it's the BIPOC club in my school, and we're really aimed towards making our school more culturally inclusive. But I think that at that same time, it's like, I feel like I'm the only one at my school trying to do that. And we celebrate History and Heritage Months, and we recently are celebrating Black History Month. And I just feel like it's kind of a burden on my club for me to do everything, because administration really sees my club as an asset, but also at the same time, it feels like all of the cultural diversity at the school is being put on me. Like, I'm not even Black, but I was really put in charge of all these celebrations for Black History Month. And even on the Trojan newsletter, they posted pictures of what my club had done. We highlighted Black figures that aren't as well known and done a bunch of other stuff, but we weren't credited at all. So I think overall, just to sum up, I feel like it's a little bit hard to feel like I belong at the school, because it's a little bit hard interacting with students of a different cultural background.
Okay, thanks, Jaden. Okay, Leo.
I would say from an outside perspective, it seems pretty easy. But I think that on campus, I could be wrong, this is just what I'm seeing, but a lot of the different cultural ethnicities and races tend to group up by themselves. And this also kind of happens with like different stereotypes, like sports kids and the band kids and the drama kids. Everyone kind of clumps together, and you don't really see a lot of diversity within those groups. If you see a large group of kids gathered, it's usually a group of white kids or a group of Mexican kids or a group of Asian kids. And you don't see a lot of different people all in one group unless you're in a classroom setting, in which case you do get a lot of the diversity, but that happens when you're in class because there's a lot of different kids in the classes.
Okay, thank you. So, Matea.
Well, it kind of is easy, like you have your interest with people, but teachers, they don't really do anything to do that. Like some teachers have done stuff for Hispanic Heritage Month or Black History Month, but as a school, you don't really do anything about it. It's kind of like, well, if you're in that class, then you're doing something about it. But like as a school, you don't really learn anything about it or learn about the history of those people.
Okay, so more could be done, it sounds like. All right, Stella.
Yeah, like Mateo was saying, our school could probably use a little bit more celebrating more of outside cultures and holidays to be more inclusive with other cultures. Sometimes like our library does some things during like Black History Month. They will hang up signs and like try and celebrate those. I just think we could be a little bit more inclusive than that. And also some of the teachers, like she was saying, well, like I know some teachers who do like assignments on those type of things, and just they are more inclusive, but most of the teachers aren't. They aren't generally in that type of range.
And Eden, final words here?
I think that's kind of like a mixed question, because in some aspects, yes, it is easier to connect with someone from a different cultural background, because there is a lot of common ground, like whether if we go to the same school, have the same teachers, or even have like friends in common, that's one way you can connect. But it is sort of difficult because, and I can only speak from the perspective of a white person, but as a white person growing up, I wasn't exposed to a lot of other cultures just because I come from a white family, and a lot of the staff at my school are also white people. So a lot of the education I'm getting is from a white perspective and not from the perspective of a person of color, which is the perspective that matters when you're being educated on their culture.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to have to make a judgment call here because we're coming down to the end and we still have a couple of questions in front of us. So what I'm going to suggest is that I'd like to swing around and ask you question number 5, just to get a quick answer on that. And then swing around one more time and say, is there one thing you want to make sure we heard? Okay, so I've got 2 questions for you. The first one is, do you feel you belong at your school? And if yes or no, please explain. And I'm going to start with you, Madison. And again, this is going to be a kind of a quick round so we can make sure we cover these 2 topics.
Okay. I think some of the other students might have better answers than mine. Because I'm not a minority, so it's easier for me to like feel like I belong. I feel like just because like there's no one like coming at me or like trying to like tear me down or anything. So I think it's like I found like students I can belong with, and I've been a part of like multiple different friend groups, and all of them I like can find friendships with people I belong with.
Okay, thank you. Jaden.
I feel like I belong at my school because I've had to make myself belong. I think that, I mean, yeah, that's really my answer. I feel like I've had to make myself belong at the school because I feel like not a lot has been done to make it more inclusive for different cultures.
And Leo, how about you?
I have a similar answer to Jaden. I feel like on my own, I kind of might not belong there, but because I don't want to be pushed away, I've kind of forced myself into feeling like I need to be there and I need to belong somewhere.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Matea.
Yeah, I feel like I do belong at school. Like sometimes you might not want to be there, but there are certain things that draw you to school and make you feel like you belong.
Okay.
I feel like I belong. I've got a group of friends that I've been close to, and they make me feel like I can be at school and be who I want to be. And just being there, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to be here. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to agree with Jaden and Leo. I feel like I do belong, but solely because of the fact that I make myself belong, or I try to fit in with other people that I want to belong with, to make myself feel more involved and immersed in the community of the entirety of the school.
Okay, thanks, Eden. Evelyn?
I do feel like I belong because everyone has treated me nicely, even staff.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so this last, Madison, I started with you, didn't I? I thought so. Okay. So the last question is there one thing you just want to make sure we heard? Okay. So Jaden, let's start with you. One thing.
More representation in schools. More representation in schools.
Okay, thank you. Leo?
I'm gonna have to agree with Jaden and getting more representation for people of color and people in the LGBTQ community.
Okay, thank you.
I wish our school had a couple more elective options.
I would say having the teachers be more inclusive, or knowing about your personal life and getting to know you better.
Eden?
I'm also gonna have to agree with Jaden and Leo of having more representation, not only in the students, but in the staff for people of color and queer people.
Okay, thank you. Evelyn?
I also think we should have more electives.
Okay.
Just like listening to students and the student body, but not just like everyone as a whole, but like all the different like facets that make up the school.
Okay, student voice, right? Okay. Thank you so much. I think a round of applause for our students. Really appreciate your time. And I think, Tony, we have some swag for them. Did I understand that was happening? Where's Tony? Tony's back there. Okay, so if you guys go back there, please, and grab your swag and just a big thank yous. Send out the family.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to start in just 1 second.
Really.
Thank you. The questions in Spanish on the back. Well, welcome to our family members. We really appreciate you being our final panel for the night. We've been hearing such good information from our students and staff. So we're going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us your school, your children's school, and where they attend, and how many years have your children been in the Petaluma schools, and then your gender pronouns. And Patrick, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, my name is Patrick Dunn. My children are in 3rd and 4th grade at McNear Elementary, and we've been in the district for 2 years. My pronouns are he and him.
Okay, thanks so much. Stacy.
My name is Stacy Stern. My children are in 4th grade at McKinley, 7th grade at McKinley's PAX. And we are hosting an exchange student right now who is at CASA in her, I think, senior year. And my pronouns are she, her.
Okay, thank you. Karina.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karina Cruz. I have a 7th grader at Kenilworth campus and a 4th grader at McDowell Elementary School. And I'm going to continue doing Spanish after this, just to show you guys how important it's our diversity here and how we get respect in PCS.
Yes, thank you very much. And Chelsea.
I'm Shannon Sunberg.
Oh, Shannon, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And my child is in 3rd grade at Pembroke Elementary, and we spent 3 years in the South County Consortium and continue to Pembroke Elementary for kindergarten.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Shannon. All right, I'm going to start with the questions, and as we mentioned, I'll have each one of you start with the first questions. That's going to make sense in a minute, Patrick. Sorry for lack of clarity here. So what do you appreciate and value most about your school district and why? That's the first part of the question. And then what do you hope your student gets from their experience in attending our Petaluma schools?
So, la primera pregunta es, ¿qué es lo que más aprecia y valora de nuestro distrito escolar y el por qué? ¿Y qué espera de su estudiante, qué espera que su estudiante obtenga de su experiencia asistiendo a las escuelas de la ciudad de Petaluma?
Thank you.
I appreciate most my students, teachers. I was a high school teacher for a long time. And so I know what happens behind the scenes and how hard it is to get ready to have a room full of students from diverse backgrounds and, educational discrepancies. So I appreciate that, my daughter goes to school grumpy and comes home happy. And, so I really appreciate the amount of work that their classroom teachers, the aides, the elective teachers, the administration puts into building an environment that is welcoming, inclusive, friendly, fun, and educational for them. So what I hope that they get out of it every day, week, and year is happiness, warmth. They learn to treat people well, and I hope they learn to add and read as well.
All right, thank you. Stacy.
I would echo all of that. I love that our school district offers school choice. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Some people I really respect in the district choose to send their kids to what they're zoned for. And so I'm not clear if whether the choice I'm making to send my kids to the school that we're not zoned for is right in the long run, but I appreciate getting to go to a school that's different from what I'm zoned for. I feel like if something's inequitable in the district, they're willing to make the change. Again, I don't fully understand this, but we went to McKinley for the GATE program and it changed. And that was totally fine with me because I was understanding that it wasn't necessarily inequitable. I don't really understand why, but I just wanted to say that I really supported that if that was the case, that it was inequitable, that I appreciate the district made that change. I feel like the school district has a lot of agency and is nimble. They're willing to take risks. They're very positive. I feel like they believe in what's possible. The communications that we receive are, when I take the time to read them, which I don't always, but the monthly newsletter I really love. The tone of it, the little tidbits that will be dropped in there about, personal experience that you share, I always appreciate. The frequency of the newsletters, we get one also every week from our principal at McKinley and PAX, 2 different newsletters. I love that there's going to be staff development days around restorative practices, equity, English language development, positive behavior interactions, and the Calming Space website that seemed to be recently released. I love that that's a thing. I asked my kid about it and she was like, I haven't heard about that yet, so I'm not clear how that's getting rolled out, but I shared that with her. In terms of what I hope that my kids get from PCS, we're privileged to, my husband and I are both have college degrees and he has a master's degree, and I don't necessarily want the same thing for my kids. That's fine if that's what they choose to do. I'd love to see them do whatever it is that they want to do. But I heard something recently that is that what really is an indicator of future success for our kids is emotional intelligence, empathy, problem solving, self-regulation, stress management, and communication. And nowhere does it say anything about the need for a high IQ or a 4.5 GPA or going to an elite school. And while I hope that my kids, should they want to go to an elite school, have that opportunity, I believe that developing all of those other skills is what I'm really looking for from our educational system.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Karina.
Buenas tardes. Como lo que a mí me gusta del distrito o lo que... ¿por qué escogí este distrito o por qué nos quedamos? Porque yo estoy desde el 2007 involucrada en el distrito, pero con mi propio hijo desde el 2015 en TK y hasta ahorita el grado 7 es el servicio a lo que son los maestros. Yo siempre he dicho que estoy muy bendecida de tener unos maestros muy transparentes, muy conectados con los papás, de que si yo tengo alguna duda, yo hablo, texteo o mando alguna nota y a mí se me escucha, y eso facilita el triángulo que es maestro, hijo y papá. Es muy importante para la educación y así me mantiene conectada con mi hijo, con lo que mi hijo está haciendo y con su educación. ¿Qué espero de ellos, que obtengan en su educación? Pues que obtengan las herramientas para ser buenos estudiantes y para que lleguen a una vida exitosa como cualquier padre quiere, una buena educación para sus hijos y que salgan con las herramientas que ellos necesitan. Gracias.
So will Mariana be translating for us? Mariana? All right. Thanks so much, Mariana. Thank you, Karina. Shannon.
So what I value from the school district is when we joined the South County Consortium, I really had no idea what I was doing. My son was 3. I had no clue how to navigate what was going to be before him for his education and what kind of classes. And I remember sitting in an IEP feeling like, oh my gosh, nervous and emotional. And I just remember that they were like, we're your team and we're your support. And in carrying that forward, the support and that anything is possible and the opportunity for those with different learning abilities. And that carried forward. And so I remember having mixed emotions about my son going into full inclusion at Pengrove Elementary because I would miss my team, but yet they brought me into another great team. And so that was something that transition was, and communication and support was exactly what I needed as a parent. And what I'm hoping my student gets from attending city schools is that he's at school equal amount of time as what he's with our family. So I look to the staff and the teachers as role models for him and how they are treating each other and the students. And I appreciate the positive role models that he is around every day.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. So our next question is really thinking about when students are excited about being at school. So to give us maybe an example of a time when your student was excited or your students were excited, and what was that about? And then what do you think could motivate them to be even that much more excited? So Stacy, I'm going to start with you.
So piensa en un momento en que su estudiante estaba emocionado por algo en la escuela que les emocionó y si pudiera agregar algo para motivarlos aún más, ¿qué sería?
So what I thought my kids got excited about was Valentine's, Jogathon, and this week is Spirit Week at PAX, and my son was actually up and out of bed getting dressed in the wacky wear day. But I asked them, because I thought, what is your experience? And I was somewhat surprised to learn that their favorite part of school are the Genius Hour type projects where they learn about everything and then they get a chance to present it. And I thought, oh, wow, that's so amazing, because what I see at home is you not having stress management skills, being completely freaked out about the assignment, stressing beyond what's necessary for 4th grade. And I try to approach that in a loving way, but that's what it's a balance of rigor and nurturance that they're receiving. Sorry, what was the second part of the question? Oh, what else would I give them?
What else might motivate them?
They said a mix of Smarties and I realize you have a student panel for this, but a mix of, they said those little things like the Smarties when you're in Spanish. And then the other motivation for them is, well, my opinion is that genuine connection with their teachers, who the teachers that they have this year they've had really for a long time, are so thriving in their work right now. And you can see that my kids want to do well for the teacher too.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Karina.
Las veces que yo he visto a mis hijos emocionados son desde el primer día de clases, porque como mencionaron anteriormente, Petaluma City School es una comunidad, entonces están emocionados de ver qué compañerito tienen en clases y cambiaron a algunos de los compañeros para otra clase o así. Este año en McDowell tuvimos el primer Día de Muertos, eso les gustó mucho porque como somos mexicanos, hablar de tu cultura siempre te emociona y compartir con todos, hey, mira, esto hacemos en México y esto significa, como dice el walkathon, todos los field trips también les gustan mucho cuando piensan en eso. Después del COVID que implementaron para todas las escuelas, el Soccer League, y todos los deportes que se han añadido, todo toda clase extracurricular les emociona mucho a los estudiantes. Y yo agregaría eso también, que de hecho ya lo están implementando, pero eso es algo que a los estudiantes les motiva mucho, como cosas digitales o cualquier extracurricular, a ellos les gusta mucho compartir, que no sea matemáticas y que no sea algo normal de la escuela, todo eso les motiva.
Thank you. Mariana. All right, thank you, Mariana. And Karina. Shannon.
So I asked my son what he really is excited about, and he really loved Global School Play Day. He also, he loves Jogathon, he loves Field Day. He really enjoys while it is outside of school hours, the family fun nights that get put on. And he enjoys being able to play with his friends and just that interaction of a different kind of approach to learning with free play and games. So I think what would motivate him to enjoy school even more is maybe some more enrichment programs that are more along art and theater. And I think that's it.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. Patrick.
I'm going to just echo what the other parents have said. My children are generally excited about the extracurricular activities that are presented. Theater, robots, fencing, golf, all the extracurriculars are really, the highlights of the day. But during the school day, they tend to be excited about unit projects. Like my son has a book report that's, it's been like a 3-week project and we've been working on it at home. He wants to do a good job at it. So things that I feel like he knows he has to put a little bit more work into, and he knows that's going to be public facing. I think that makes him excited because he knows he's going to be able to present his work, and it's going to be public for everyone to see. So that both motivates him and makes him excited. So I think generally public work, I think, is something that makes them excited and motivated. If we could add one thing, I think the schools are doing a great job. That's, from my perspective. And again, I don't, it's not a wizard factory, it's a school, so these teachers are humans, right? So they do as far as I'm concerned, they do the very best they can. And, and that's all I can really ask out of any teacher or, administration. Just show up, be there, be present, and care about the kids. And I think they're doing a great job as that. And more, I don't think there's really more at this point. I mean, who knows how things are going to go, but again, I've only been in the district for 2 years, but I've been incredibly happy with the support they're getting, the care they're receiving, the education. So I'm pretty happy with what's been going on so far.
Okay, thanks so much, Patrick. So I'm going to go to question 3. And again, just for being mindful of time, I'm going to have to juggle the questions a bit. So I'm going to read question 3 because it's one we really want. to have an answer to, and then Esmeralda will read it in Spanish, and Karina, you'll start for us. And so does your student feel connected to an adult at school? So it's does your student or students? And then talk a little bit about if the answer is yes, what's the impact? What's happened for the students? And if they don't feel connected to an adult, can you give us some insight or thoughts about what could make them feel more connected? So it's got a couple of parts to it, but it's all around if your student feels connected to an adult at school.
Entonces, ¿siente su estudiante conectado con un adulto en la escuela? ¿Y cuál es el impacto de esa conexión? Y si su estudiante no se siente conectado, ¿cómo podemos ayudar a que eso suceda?
Okay, en cuestión de conexión, tendría que especificar más. Si mi hijo se siente cómodo cuando él necesita ayuda y preguntarle a la maestra, sí. Si mi hijo siente la confianza de si él tiene alguna duda y acude al maestro, sí, le he preguntado eso y él lo tiene. Como los estudiantes mencionaron antes, de tener la confianza de resolver algún problema con el maestro, es muy diferente a tener una conexión a la hora de pedir ayuda de algo personal. Eso no sé si lo tienen, pero definitivamente tienen la confianza de pedir ayuda cuando la necesitan y que ellos creen y saben que la maestra les va a ayudar o les va a poner atención.
Okay, thanks so much, Mariana. Great. So Shannon.
Last year, I thought my son did, but this year, there's definitely been a more obvious connection that for my son, feeling that he has a safe space, multiple safe adults that he can go to when he needs extra support. What I have noticed is that it takes a lot less time in the morning to convince him to come to school, and which is helpful for at home. He has better attendance this year, less early pickups, a lot less meltdowns after school, and he's just getting a much deeper connection and support that, you know, is wonderful. So.
All right, thank you. Patrick.
Yeah, I'd say my children are different and they have different needs at school. And one of them, I feel like needs to have an adult connection more than the other. And that one absolutely does. It feels like there's an adult that keeps an eye on one of my children, and not that the other one isn't looked after, but again, their needs are slightly different. So I think they're both getting what they need in terms of adult support and relationship. And again, I think it's incredibly important for, for one of my children that does seem to have, someone kind of feeling like in their corner. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Stacy.
Yes, both of my kids have a strong. Yes, both of my kids have a strong connection to an adult. The impact over the summer, we had a tragedy in our family, and my daughter specifically asked to be in touch with the student advisor at school, Ms. Casso Harvey. And so I emailed her sister, who's the secretary there, and she got back to me right away. And sorry, she took time out of her summer to meet with my daughter. And it was a huge impact on the family.
Thank you, Stacy. So I'm going to ask two final questions of us. And one of them is question number 4 about how our school district values our diverse families and how you've seen that, if there's a way that you've seen that diversity being honored. So that's one question I'm going to ask you. And I think I'm going to stay with you for the second question, which is, what's one thing you want to make sure our school board and community heard through this conversation? So I'm going to ask you 2 questions.
Ok, vamos a completar aquí con 2 preguntas. La primera acerca de el distrito escolar valorando a nuestra comunidad diversa. So, ¿de qué manera has visto que valoramos a nuestras familias aquí dentro de Petaluma? Y aparte, ¿qué es una cosa que quiere asegurarse de que escuchemos y llevemos a nuestra junta escolar, a la mesa directiva?
Thank you. So Shannon, I'm going to start with you. And this is around valuing, if you've evidenced the value of the diverse families in our community. And then again, the second question I'll ask in a sec. So start with the first.
Okay. I feel that at Pembroke, they value the diverse families, whether it's in projects that, ancestry and learning about different cultures, in the classroom to having an event in May around Cinco de Mayo and appreciating the culture around that it's something that is, promoted and shared at the school. And I think that just, expanding that a little bit to additional cultures would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you. And so the last question, I'm going to ask you, as I said, 2 is, is there one thing you want to make sure everybody heard through this conversation tonight?
Something that I've been observing, and, it's new at Pengrove for the PBIS, and just learning more about that and what that means for our campus. And I would love to, see, even some of that training to support the families to carry it into the home as well. And just, I loved what the staff shared about needing more time and smaller classes. And I think that would really support, creating that deeper connection with the students as well.
Okay, thanks very much. Patrick. So the first question is around how we value diverse family community, and have you witnessed that in your?
Yeah, I think the school, McNair in general, specifically McNair, is doing a masterful job of representing community. My children are mixed, but they're white presenting. And so it feels very much like the cultural celebrations and diversity of different, the educational diversity that happens is very generic, very organic, I'd say. And it doesn't feel like it's spotlighting at all. So it feels like it's very natural. And I appreciate how that's presented to them. And they seem to kind of take it in stride, and I think the school is doing a wonderful job presenting different cultural representations and information in an appropriate way for them. So yeah, I think that's that one. And then in terms of what do I hope the board takes back? Again, I'm a happy parent, and I'm a pro teacher parent as well. So I think the schools are doing great, but I think it's important to remember that if we're not getting better, we're getting worse. So let's continue to push the envelope, continue to, have difficult conversations about inclusivity and diversity, make sure everyone, like every student and every classroom is going to matter and their feelings matter. And, again, I'm incredibly happy with our experience, but, we have to never get complacent with, making children feel welcome, safe and, appreciated.
I appreciate that. Never get complacent. It's a good slogan here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stacy.
I do think that our school district does a fantastic job of doing what they can to offer many translations in Spanish. At our school, I see a lot of signs for adult school opportunities on citizenship, et cetera. So I'm really impressed by that. I'm curious, and I don't know this, but about any neurodiversity trainings that are happening. I'll sometimes see on campus someone in a staff or teacher position who's struggling to connect with a child who I'm seeing as neurodiverse, and that's kind of what's going on. And sometimes I think there's an opportunity for additional training around that. I think there's a little bit of ageism. And what I mean by that is I think it's our general culture to kind of look down on kids or talk down to kids. And I would not say that is always the way at all in PCS. But I think it's something we need to talk about. That is something that happens, and that we need to empower our kids to speak up for each other and themselves. And just when we're not having our best moment as a parent or an adult in the world, to be able to say, I need to take a break and step away. So that's my opinion on diversity in terms of neurodiversity. What do I hope you take away? I love it that you're even doing this. I'd say it increased, I know, the one thing I'd love that you take away. So when they do human interaction, I get an email that says that the teacher is going to be doing human interaction. If I want to learn more about it, I can go to the office, is my understanding, and get the curriculum. I am not going to go stand out and embarrass my kid and go to the office to get the curriculum. I would love it if the curriculum was just posted somewhere. And I'd love dual parent child learning opportunities. So for instance, like that, I think the research says that the most impact the child is getting is what I say to them about vaping, drugs, alcohol, the relationship I have, and they're getting all this information at school, but it's not a partnership. And I would love more of a partnership in human interaction, drugs, alcohol, vaping, that kind of thing. Thank you for doing this.
All right. Thank you. Karina.
Sí, Petaluma City School definitivamente valora la diversidad de las comunidades. Es muy bonito, siendo yo parte de una comunidad latina diferente, que mis hijos también aprendan sobre el mes pasado mi hijo me comentaba, mamá, mi amigo hace algo que se llama Ramadan, mis amigos celebran Hanukkah, y le digo, oh, ¿qué es eso? Enséñame más. Y entonces entre ellos describen sus experiencias y lo bonito de cada cultura, y eso me parece genial para hacer una comunidad diversa. Petaluma City School nos ha dado esa facilidad. A mí en lo personal, yo he sido parte de ILAC en McDowell, DLAC en McDowell y Kenilworth, School Site Council, y en todo lo que pueda ayudar, PTA o festividades, yo estoy ahí. A mí se me ha dado la oportunidad, sea en inglés o en español. La razón por la que escogí hablar español esta noche, para invitar a otros papás que pierdan el miedo, que se involucren más en la escuela, que el idioma no tiene que ser una barrera, que tenemos ayuda, y aprecio mucho lo que Petaluma City Schools está haciendo y les doy las gracias por eso, por arroparnos a todos los aprendices de inglés y a todas las comunidades diferentes de aquí. Muchas gracias. Voy a contestar lo último.
Claro que sí.
Que a mí me gustaría que se concentraran, la escuela en general y Petaluma City School están haciendo un trabajo maravilloso, porque yo he estado presente en varias reuniones y lo que se les ha pedido lo han trabajado como pueden o lo mejor que pueden. La seguridad me preocupa mucho, la seguridad de la escuela. Me gustaría como que incluyeran rondas de policías como se hacía anteriormente en las escuelas, o en Kenilworth a veces el lonche que les dan no alcanza, o no sé si no hay suficientes personas. Niños a veces dicen que no les alcanza el tiempo para agarrar el lonche porque las líneas son muy largas, y cuestiones como esas que estoy segura se pueden ajustar. Muchas gracias por todo lo demás.
Thank you. Mariana.
No, that's good, but there's not enough time.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Karina. And thank you to our panel. We really appreciate, again, being here for all three of the panels and for all that you had to contribute. So really, really helpful. I think an applause for our parent family panel. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Matthew for just a few closing words. And I hope people will stick around for a little food too.
Not sure if everybody heard me at the beginning, but we really wanted to connect. Sorry, I feel okay. It's just this congestion. Connect it back to our district goals. And what was said here tonight by our teachers and staff, our students, our parents was such valuable information. I took as best notes as I possibly could. I really just appreciate your time. I appreciate your feedback. What you said, Pat, just about, showing up and being here and being supportive of our staff. I completely agree with you there. And Karina, I want to find some more of our Latina families to raise their voice and be part of the conversation. I'm so thankful. I know that I've spoken with you several times. I know you speak beautiful English and beautiful Spanish. And I'm appreciative that you did that tonight for us. And it's a perfect segue into the bilingual, bicultural, biodiverse school at McDowell that we're launching right now. So thank you for doing that, and everyone for being here tonight. Thank you. And now it's time we're bringing some food in. So I want to invite everyone to stay and have a little food. Thank you to everybody. Feel free to stay and get some. I think we have pasta and salad tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.